I am unashamed. What about you?
Welcome back to Unashamed. This is the maiden voyage post ice-pocalypse. I've named our experience, Jase, the ice-pocalypse. When I left my house today, and it was 9 days ago when this thing hit, I still had ice all over my steps. I couldn't walk to my truck. Now it's just all slippery.
Same issue.
Yeah.
Which most people south of our interstate.
Which is where we sit today.
Yeah.
Which wasn't bad at all here.
It wasn't as bad, but we just got power. We spent 8 days out without power.
8 days without power. Old school.
And now look, I'm going to have to say this right off the top, where we're going with this. What I noticed a pattern developed, Zach, because we hadn't even talked about you coming down to experience the duck hunting in the ice. And then I just looked up, and he was gone, like the smoke or the wind. I was like, whatever happened to Zach?
He was like a vapor.
Last I heard, he was headed to Walmart, and I never saw him. This is the first time I've seen him since he just vanished.
Well, he got him a little taste of the hunt, which Zach, I want to hear about that experience. And then he came to my house, which I had a Generac. So the smartest thing I did was 6 years ago after the hurricane was invest in a generator. And dear old dad was the reason why. He said, Al, you'd be an idiot not to buy that. And I said, you're right.
Yeah.
So I have power. The only problem is...
You call him an idiot, Al?
Well, I'm not. Dad did. But the only problem with Jase when you got the Generac in the neighborhood is then everybody came to my house.
There you go.
So we were feeding 15 plus people.
It was
every
a cesspool of disease and
kids
sickness.
got sick and people were
they were
throwing
sick
up.
too. You had the
Dogs are
granddaughter in there
pooping
sick
everywhere.
as a dog, and it's just viruses spreading around. But I will tell you, 4 days. We were down there 4 days. Yeah, I did. I was down there 4 days with Jase, and so the initial instruction was, if you want to go hunt with us, you have to be prepared to be stuck down here for 4 days.
Yeah.
And
Which
so
turned into
there was
8.
There was a window of opportunity where after the first day, he said, we're going to take the nurseman back and Christian back at 9 a.m. But if you stay past this point, then you're probably not getting out.
That's true.
And so Bear, my son, was hunting right down the road from us. And so I said, well, do we need do you guys care if Bear came? And I thought y'all were going to push back on that. But then I realized that they wanted an extra gun in the blind. So they said, yeah, bring him on. So me and Bear got stuck down there with Jase and Jay and Burley. And yeah, it was like a meat fest. We ate a bunch of meat.
Yeah.
It was the greatest duck hunt I've ever been on.
It was
epic hunt.
phenomenal. And look, me and old Bear bonded.
Yeah.
Me and Zach, not so much. But Zach did have a moment. He had a moment.
I want to hear this. I
will give you credit because you have yuppie tendencies, and but you've done something right because your kids are absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
I told Bear, I was like, you're welcome here anytime, buddy. He was a giver, not a taker. He was ready to work. He just enjoyed it. So we had a mallard drake come in, and of course just to put this season in perspective, we were at about 200 ducks until the ice storm.
Ooh.
Total for the season, worst season ever. Of course, we had no water.
Yeah.
But that ice, not only did it bring the ducks down, it actually provided way more water for us because it was whatever they said it was gonna, however many inches, they were way off.
Yeah,
because it was, we got hammered, but every day the water would come up, and it just, the more ducks came. So we killed about 350 the last 9 days.
Wow.
Now, that's incredible.
That's pretty
and the
amazing.
last day...
So you doubled the season total.
More than
double.
Almost tripled.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last day, we had 3 groups, 18 men. You can do the math, and we shot 92
Wow.
total between the 3 groups. So we were... Sounds like a lot, but we were like, I don't know, 15 short of the limit, 16, something like that. But we hunted all day.
Yeah.
So 2 groups did, and then one, they waved the white flag. But old Zach, a mallard drake came in. Of course, I'm kind of the captain in the blind, and I'm like when to shoot them. And, of Of course, I was fixed to just cut him when he come by because he had circled a few times. So as soon as he cut my corner, I said, shoot him. And I raised up and was fixed to shoot him. But then I just realized, oh, he's coming in the decoys. So I waited. I mean, I've already given the command, shoot him. I waited. And about the time I was squeezing the trigger, a shot rang out. And I ended up making sure this duck was absolutely, all his regrets had been removed. And I was about a second behind. But the first shot was perfect shot. So I asked the question. I said, who fired that shot? And
That's
Zach
a dad
said,
question.
that was me. And I said, well, you finally arrived. Your yuppiness has been dissolved.
I said, Jase, I've been hunting with you before, but it's like all the past. He said, the day you have become a man. And then it was about 20 minutes of him telling me.
Zach Dasher actually raised up a firearm.
He said, well, I'll be Zach Dasher killed a duck. I mean, my
He
goodness.
said it was such
people.
surprise that
I was stunned. I was shocked. Now, the duck was 10 yards, almost motionless. But still, I thought, okay.
Oh, man.
Just the fact he did it.
Oh, I was stunned.
Let me tell you something, man. I actually prayed that Bear would get stuck down there with us because, I mean, he needed that too. And there was, I will say, there was one day where me and Stone said, I think this is going to be what Phil calls it ride the hole, which is what you do when there's just nothing there, but you just grind it out.
All day.
So Stone's like, we ain't killing no more ducks. He said, I'm going to leave. And he kind of told me, like, you probably want to come with me. And so I went back with Stone, and Bear stayed back with Jase, and I think they did actually ride the hole. They may have got one more after we left. I don't know what y'all did.
It was more than one, but it was not. Yeah. It was pretty slow. We had a couple slow days in there, and then a couple days I couldn't hunt because once I determined the severity of the ice storm,
well, plus Missy was home. Yeah,
she was like, I need a little help here. Yeah. So one night I just decided to drive really slow in the middle of the night because the roads were still icy, and it was a crazy story when I got to. I mean, it just kept getting worse. The further I went north, it got worse and worse. And when I got to our neighborhood, in my headlights, I look, and there's a tree that I couldn't get my arms around across our road. I'm like, I'm not going in. If I go to our house, I'll be walking because you're not going past this.
It looked the gate, it fell on the gate, and it just mangled. I mean, it just
mangled.
Totally mangled.
Of which I cut a few days later. But I wound up going into your driveway, Al, which I made the maiden voyage on that. Now, the next morning, and then I walked to my house, but the next morning when I walked over there, I was like, if I would have been able to see down your driveway clearly, I would have never tried that. But in the moment, I wanted to be with my wife, and I had to bring her some firewood, and it just evolved in a downward spiral after that because we were thinking 3 or 4 days, but her parents, they lost their power, and at some point they were just living in their vehicle with the heat on, and my wife was like, that's not going to work. And they're like, oh, no, the power's coming on any minute. Yeah. Which, if they
you kept getting these reports, they'd say, this time, but it was never right. It was days after.
So we moved my parents in, which... Okay, you have no power. You move Missy's parents and their pets in.
Yeah.
And it was so crazy because the whole time they were there, I was thinking, they need help. We're family. I was thinking, honor your father and mother.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, Al, I was thinking, leave and cleave. Honor your father and mother. Leave and cleave.
For this reason, a man leaves his father and mother.
Because what happened
he was riding the rail of the theology, Zach, because when you're living in the moment, and Benjamin Franklin had it best, once you get past 3 days.
Well, it was the problem,
days.
Al. This developed. It was really good because you realize you're supposed to honor your father and mother. We only had one room that was warm because we had a gas fireplace in our bedroom. So Missy's like, you realize they're going to have to move in our bedroom. And I was like, Well, you realize I'm going to have to move out if they move. And she's like, well, yeah.
So, Al, your house during the apocalyptic snowstorm was infested with viruses because you had some sick grandkids around.
Yeah, and they were spreading the wealth with the rest of us. It's not a fun time in our house right now.
Well, I had some family members with me that got sick. I did not get sick, and I think that's because of our good friend, Dr. Dennis Black, who invented Texas Superfood 25 years ago. I'm telling you, I've been taking this stuff. This is what my family takes to build our body's defense system from the inside out. It's got 55 vine-ripe fruits and vegetables, probiotics, and enzymes. And I've been taking Texas Superfood now for, I guess, about 2 months, and it just makes me feel better throughout the day. Jill's taking it as well. It's the real deal. It's the original superfood, and one of the reasons why we like it comes in the capsule forms. Texas Superfood was super easy to incorporate into our routine. So if you're one of those people like myself who maybe can't, won't, or don't eat all of your fruits and vegetables every day, then Texas Superfood is made for you. You can start boosting your immune system today. All you got to do is go to TexasSuperfood.com, use the discount code Unashamed, and you guys can get 35% off your first order. That's TexasSuperfood.com. Use discount code Unashamed to get 35% off your first order. TexasSuperfood.com, discount code Unashamed.
And so we were going to take the couch because we have the fireplace. I was going to be in charge of keeping the fireplace stoked. But I was so tired that once I went to sleep, I woke up 3 or 4 hours later. I actually heard their dog gagging. And I thought, what is this?
You never want to wake up hearing kids or dogs gagging. That's just
yeah. And I thought, should I go in there? It's like, no, we'll just have to deal with it later. But I looked up, well, Missy's not there. She's moved over to the cold wing. I found out the next day that it was because I was snoring so loud. She's like, I'd rather be cold than listen to this chainsaw going on. So we did that for a few days. But what I was going to say, that what started off this conversation, so many things happen along the way because it's just like anything else. You start going back to where in times when you had no electricity.
That's right.
And my wife, I have to just give her credit. I mean, she just evolved into, she cooked a meal every day.
Yep.
We had a gas stove,
Yeah, we
but like
did
a complete meal. I mean,
we were doing it
we
every
only
day.
got one meal a day, but it was a big one.
Yeah.
And she had candles. I don't know where she kept getting all these candles, and she'd have it lit up at night. And I mean, as it went along, it just got better and better. But multiple people along the way, because, I finally realized the only way I'm going to clear this road is if I do it.
Yeah.
Because we're technically a private road. And I waited a day.
Probably you and David Owen are the only ones with equipment to even do anything.
And guess who was out there? I did the
Big
cutting,
Dave.
and then he did the tractor.
Yeah. Removal.
Yeah, he kind of had a rake and just made it where at least when the ice did melt, you could get out of there. But it was tricky because there were so many limbs down.
Well, and you had to be careful because a good friend of ours, their son was in his 20s, I think. I mean, he had a tree fall on his back, broke his back.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he is at this point, but we've been praying for him. But it was a very dangerous situation. I mean, you had to watch as lines down. A kid got electrocuted just the last day or two. And so it's a very dangerous situation. But it's just the complexity of the living, Jase, when you were saying that. Because we were feeding our crew, which we had set up for this, but then we had some extras, that people that were in bad situations. One is a friend whose husband's deployed. She's got a little young child, so they stayed with us. But then I was having to trek over to take food to Mom and Aunt Ann because we came home. Zach, I was in 65-degree Gulf Shores in a perfect situation, but decided to come home because I knew we'd need help.
Yeah,
and I knew Mom.
Which I'm really glad you did.
And it was worth it. It was great because we got stocked up on food. But Mom and Aunt Ann, they decided they were like, I said, well, you come stay at our house because we're going to have power because I have a generac. And she was like, no, it's going to be too loud over there. So I was like, well, Mom, you're just going to stay over here? So Willie got her a generator. So they stayed there with one of their sitter ladies, and she rode out the whole storm with them.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is twice they ran out of gas in their. Have you heard this story?
Yeah.
And but it was like 3:30 in the morning. The other one was 4, which I couldn't believe they didn't call me. She's like, "Oh no, I called Willie," and I was surprised that Willie got up and went and got them some gas because it was hard to find gas.
Yeah, it got hard to find gas. But Willie also has a couple of guys that work for him that are helpful for stuff like that. So.
Yeah. So look.
We just made do.
We made do. And look, a lot of people were way worse off than we are. And I think in any of these things, you have givers and takers, and then you have people who need help.
Yeah.
And so we did our best. I'm even today doing a thing with Samaritan's Purse to bring some more volunteers here because half the city is fine, but the north half, it's really bad. It's bad. So we need some more volunteers. And Samaritan Purse, and even One Kingdom.
They were in our neighborhood 2 days after One Kingdom was, which you guys have supported them. We appreciate it.
It turned out to be a weight problem. That ice mostly broke off big limbs on most trees. And just the weight
I've never
of the
heard
ice.
anything like it. We were standing out there. The initial thing was heavy sleet. And then it turned to freezing rain, and that's what added the weight. And then I'd say within 2 hours of this whole process starting, it sounded like cannons going off all across.
No, it looked like a war zone, and people use that language a lot, but that's what it looked like. I went down, and it felt like that, kind of had that apocalyptic feel, kind of like it did when we had the storm here. I ended up going over to Phil's house, which the Generac did not come on there for some reason, but I went over there because when we lost power where we were staying with Jase, we had no lights. And so we ended up, which was a whole nother issue.
And how was that? How was it with like 6 men in a room in the dark
I think
sleeping?
There was actually 4 of us in that little room. It was me, Zach, Jay, and Bear. Just...
But I've heard Stone snoring, and
it was a problem.
I mean, it's like a freight train.
That was an issue, but we were in the old original Unashamed podcast recording studio. That's where we were at. That's where we stayed.
Oh, that's right. That's now back to being the true lair.
So back to the true lair.
It became a lair. I can tell you that.
It was a lair.
But we were the last people to lose power. Believe it or not. Of course, ironically, they're probably the last to get it back on because they still don't have it down there.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, I had a lot of people when I had interactions with them, they were so scared that it was going to be a podcast story. And they're like, don't share this on the podcast, And so I thought, well, the name of our podcast is Unashamed. This just happened because I had a couple of really weird things that happened, and I won't use the names, but I was out sawing, and I look up, and there's a vehicle backing up in my yard, and I'm like, "You're not getting out of here," because it's a pretty big hill.
Yeah.
So I'm waving, hollering, turn the saw. I'm like, so the fellow looks at me, and they're like, "What are you hollering about?" I said, "You're in my yard." Because it was all ice.
Yeah.
And he's like, am I? He's like, don't tell this on the podcast. So it's like, well, what are we going to do? He was talking about calling a wrecker. I was like, no, we're not going to call a wrecker. I'm going to get a chain and pull you out, But it made me realize how everything that you think, it just messes with your mind. Because I saw, he thought he was on a road.
Right.
Weirdly enough, my yard kind of looked like the road. And I noticed in your driveway, people did the same thing.
I've got some major ruts going.
Oh, wow. And so, it made me think, though, about where we're at in 1 John, talking about these illustrations of light and darkness. I mean, you know what I kept thinking about every 5 minutes? Let there be light. What a joy that we have light.
Yeah.
Because you're bumbling, fumbling around in the dark for 8 days.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, this is what it's like to be outside of Jesus and have no purpose.
Yeah.
You're running into things. Bad things are happening. It's chaos. You need that heat. You need light. All the things that we talk about. It just was a living illustration.
And you know it when you see it because it pierces through the darkness. It's such a contrast. But we were debating this at the beginning of the podcast before we started about when Jelly Roll. I said he came out recently and had a speech. I sent y'all from the Grammys, which I thought it was from the Grammys, which would have been on February 1st or 2nd. And Jase said that he'd already given the speech somewhere. I don't know if maybe it's the same
speech, right?
But there was so much swirling around the Grammys this year, and man, when he spoke, it was so like authentic and real. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the guy. I don't know his whole like conversion story, or whatever. But clearly, the guy's like, he's like, look, I see you, Jesus. I hear you, and I thought it was a very clear presentation of the gospel that he was just,
in 1 minute.
Unabashedly, in 1 minute. I was like unashamed, and it was just like a moment that was shockingly like it was like a bright light in this place, and this guy's not. It wasn't like a accusatory thing at anybody. He's just like, hey, this is Jesus saved me. End of the day, like this is like Jesus. He is the answer to the whole thing. It is all about Jesus, and the way he said it though was like this is. I always thought music would save me, but realized that it was God who was going to save me. It was Jesus, and I'm listening, and I want to move forward. So I don't know his whole faith journey, but clearly something's happened in his life, and so you see that contrast in that moment, and it's like everybody was kind of drawn to it. I mean, I know he got some backlash for it, but I think in the moment, the backlash is always going to come, but in the moment, like God goes into a room and just illuminates. So I'm a big believer in monitoring your credit because it really can affect the interest rates that you're paying. So if you're looking to refinance your home or to buy a new car or to rent an apartment, anything that depends on credit, you want a score that will be as strong as possible, and you got to have it now. You're going to need smart credit. Your credit score may have taken a big hit over the holidays. A late payment, just one late payment can really hurt. But you know what else hurts is opening up a store credit card just to get the discount and transferring a balance from one card to another. That can drop your score fast. Smart credit, it's the new science in credit scoring with data experts who understand how the credit bureaus operate. Smart credit builds a personalized strategy designed to take action and maximize your score. But potentially, you could see real upward change to secure better rates on everything you finance. Better scores mean faster approvals, lower payments, and even more money in your pocket. Get ahead of it now with Smart Credit. I've actually used this service before, and it told me exactly which credit cards to pay off. I paid them off, and my score jumped up 60, 70 points. It's the real deal. So go to smartcredit.com/unashamed and start your 7-day trial for just $1. Your results are going to depend on your unique credit profile, but I think you'll be excited to see how many points Smart Credit estimates you can gain. Results are not guaranteed. Cancel at any time. That's smartcredit.com/unashamed. smartcredit.com/unashamed.
And I like the way I thought the same thing as that. And I like the way he just stayed positive with it. He didn't like say anything bad about anybody else. He didn't like, because there was a contrast, because he had mentioned in an article I read, he was talking about Nashville hosting a Super Bowl because the Titans are building a new stadium. And so he just said, I think we should have a country music halftime program when it's in Nashville because it's the home of country music. He was just making a point. He wasn't really aiming at anybody else. But then I noticed there was like controversy because we got this guy this year. What's Briar Rabbit? What's his name?
Bad Bunny. Haven't been on the internet for about 10 days. So I thought the Super Bowl had already happened.
Maddie said it was Bad Bunny. So Bad Bunny is apparently but he all of his stuff when he won an award at the Grammys was all anti-Trump, anti-ICE enforcement. He just made this whole big political rant. It's so negative, and I don't know anything about this person, but there's been a lot of controversy about him even being picked. But I just thought Jelly Roll, he was like, man, let's just have something positive and good. He was just so positive about it.
Well, the light was, I just pulled up the quote here. He said, I want to tell y'all right now, Jesus is for everybody. He's not owned. Jesus is not owned by one political party. See, I love that because it's not partisan. This isn't a partisan message. Jesus is not owned by no music label. Jesus is Jesus, and anybody can have a relationship with him. And I love you, Lord.
So good.
I mean, that is, and I think that's a message, honestly, for anybody, right? Like that. But that is a light that shines through because it's a light that the light of Christ. It's inviting the world, inviting all men. I think that's it. And then 1 John. I mean, we're talking about that. It's for all men. I mean, Christ has invited you into a relationship and into participation into his life.
Well, he sounds like a man who received a pardon and. It was good news, and he's so excited about it he can't quit.
Was
talking
he in
about
prison?
It.
Was he?
He was in prison at some point because he said I was in a cell.
He said I was in a cell
with a Bible this size, and a something that played music. But I love it, and he honored his wife as well, who was there, and said, without Jesus and you, I wouldn't be here. It was very warming.
I thought it reminds me of that famous quote Phil said at Angola that you can be under lock and key and still be free in Jesus. And I think that, you're in that moment, like you said, Jase, when the lights are out and you asked what that was like. I mean, there's a moment where when me and Jay came back the night that Bear and Jase hunted after that, they hunted for a while. We came back and all the lights went out and we were sitting in there putting in candles. I'd gone down to Phil's house and just confiscated a bunch of candles. We had it smelled good in there because I had about 40 candles of Kay's old like scented candles, and we had all the candles up. And I looked at Jay and I was like, "Man, we got to go outside or we're going to get depressed," because it was just so dark, you know what I mean? And so we went out there and built a fire outside. It was super cold, but like we had to have that light, and to make Jay called somebody. So what are y'all doing? We came outside because we didn't want to get depressed in there. But it is depressing just sitting in dark. You have no context. You don't know where anything's at. You're like stumbling around, tripping over stuff. But just that one little flame, it's interesting how it can light up an entire area that you can actually see and move around and get a context, move where you're going. So it really was kind of a great metaphor.
Oh, it really was. And the day after you left, which was good timing for you, because that was the roughest day, which, look, we shot the ducks, so I thought it was worth it. But during the course of the day, we lost a truck, totaled the truck. We lost one of my Argos. It hasn't run since. We had a young man that works here. He's been here about a year. Well, he got trapped down there. So we're like, you're in, because everybody left. Everybody pulled Dasher. They're like, it's too rough around here. And so it was, I think it was 4 of us. It was me, Burley, Jay, and the young man. No, and Chad. So we had, Chad wasn't here.
Who you affectionately called Dingleberry.
Well, we call him different names, but you got to earn your stripes. But so
he's one of those Central Florida rednecks.
Well, here's what happened. When I have this Argo, I didn't realize the water was so deep because we didn't have a good hunt. That's what sent Zach packing,
Yeah.
And he had to make a trip to Walmart, the one in North Carolina. And
it's just about 20% true, but it's a typical Jase fashion.
So what happened was, Burley, he's like, "Yeah, I wrecked my truck this morning." He slid off the road, and which he limped there, but it was. I looked at it and I thought, "Ooh,
yeah."
One your axle and your tire, you're gonna need some work there." And he's like, "Yeah." So we take my Argo. Well, I was like, I think all these ducks are in our timber. Well, the ice is so thick that when we rounded a bend, and we had to cut our way because all these trees fell over there too. So you can imagine, we did that for 2 or 3 days. And you had to have a chainsaw. Well, this water kept getting deeper, and I was breaking the ice. But we saw about 3,000 ducks get up in the vicinity of a duck blind. Well, now we lost our mind. We're like, we're going out there. But all we had was this Argo, and all of us are in it. And it only holds 2 people.
Yeah.
And at some point, the water got so deep that this thing's an amphibious vehicle. It goes from riding on land to kind of a propulsion. But the problem was the ice was so thick, it didn't have enough power. I would bump into the ice. So I said, well, y'all got to get out and break the ice. I actually took a little video of it. It was Jay, Burley, and Cade is his name.
Yeah.
They were breaking the ice. Well, I noticed at some point, and then I'm just following them in the Argo. They're making a trail for me. I noticed that Cade started shaking violently, and I'm like, what seemed to be the problem there? I mean, it's not that cold. I figured they'd be warm breaking ice. Yeah. He said, well, somewhere in breaking this ice, I've punched holes in my waders.
Oh, boy.
Oh.
And Burley, who is a nurse, that's why I wasn't worried. I thought, we have a nurse. And he's like, you're in the first stages of hypothermia.
Oh.
Yeah. Said it gives you incentive to get to the blind, which I took that to mean he's a young man, he just arrived. I said, that gives you incentive to follow Jesus. What's the worst thing that can happen to you in Jesus? Resurrection.
There you go.
And so we took a time out in this moment and had a good Jesus discussion while he's violently shaking. We get him to the blind.
So much compassion, man.
Because he's like, I think I need to, might need to go. I was like, go where? We're 3 miles from anywhere, you know.
You're where you're going to be.
You need to build a fire and get over there and hug it, and then every once in a while, raise up and shoot. It'll warm you up, And so we wound up killing a limit of ducks, but it was a tough day. I mean, when I just looked at it, because Missy said, how'd it go? I said,
young Kate, it was a really tough day.
So we lost the truck. We lost an Argo. I said, we had a guy have hypothermia. We thought he was going to die.
Almost lost a man.
He pulled through. But we had a good Jesus talk about that.
Yeah.
And we wound up killing a limit of ducks.
Does the man know Jesus? Did you figure that out?
He knows Jesus. But I'm telling you what, I think like all the relationships in times like this, it tends to galvanize what you believe. I mean, it becomes real. So all in all, look, it was a lot of opportunities to help people, and it's still ongoing. And
so Lisa and I left about halfway through the ice-pocalypse. We had an event in Illinois, and it was so funny because we get there. Of course, up there, this same storm system dumped a foot of snow on them.
Yeah. And
which is, according to them, unusual. There's a large amount, 12 to 16 inches of snow. And so we'd say, we'd be talking and they'd say, oh, y'all, where are y'all from? We're from Louisiana. Oh, well, what do you think about all this snow? I said, well, actually, I came from a place way worse than this, and then you have to tell them the story about the ice because they're functioning.
I'm gonna give a little sermon here because I realize people from the north making fun of people in the south because we don't understand cold.
Right.
There's a difference when it's ice, and my buddy who lives in the north, he kept saying, I mean, what's the big deal? You can drive. I was like, no. You can't walk. You take one step, you're going down.
That's right.
I saw my wife there one day. Because we put all our stuff that was in the refrigerator and freezer. Outside. You just put it outside, in Yeti ice chest, and that actually worked quite well.
Yes, what everybody.
But she stepped on that ice, and she just started doing it. It was like, what's the game you play where
Twister?
Yeah, it was like I was watching Twister, And
the problem is at our age, Jase, some things twist, they don't twist back. That's the.
That's true.
Yeah, I used my 4-wheel drive more in the last 10 days than I've used since I've had that truck, and I've had that 3 or 4 years.
Well, and I found out, unfortunately, with mine, my 4-wheel drive does not work.
Yeah,
because I don't ever use it.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, I needed it, and it would not go in 4-wheel drive. It just kept saying error. So, Jase, we talk a lot on this podcast about spiritual forces at work against us and against our children as well. One of the ways we are able to share values with our kids are through our good friends at Brave Books, which we have here. And one of the authors quite well.
Yeah, Missy wrote Because You're My Family, and Jep and Jessica actually helped co-write Dear Valor. And it's a story about adoption, and obviously Because You're My Family just basically talks about God's redemptive story.
Yeah, and it's about his unconditional love. So these books, they help parents build strong families by teaching kids courage, forgiveness, and fruit of the Spirit stories. And kids love reading these. Every book includes discussion questions and games so that the whole family can talk through these together. When you subscribe, you'll get a brand new book every month and a free bonus bundle, plus the 2 books written by our family right here on set for free. Let's raise brave, unashamed kids in a confusing world. Go to bravebooks.com/unashamed. Use the code unashamed to get 20% off your first order. That's bravebooks.com/unashamed. Code unashamed for 20% off.
Yeah, when you get and I don't know what their forecast or what we got, but in our neighborhood, it just collected. I don't know if it's from the trees, but in my backyard, I had it was a foot of ice, a foot.
Yeah.
And it's still there.
Yeah.
And it's been above freezing 3 or 4 days since then. The ice is still there. I mean, that's how thick this ice was, and which is why most of the limbs fell. But I thought about another spiritual principle. You know, in John 15, we was talking about pruning the branches, and because most of the problem, there were some trees that fell over, but most of it was just all these limbs falling, just the way the limbs would break. And I thought, a year from now, we'll look up and say, boy, look how beautiful all this is, because you're talking about a pruning.
Oh, it was a pruning.
God's nature style.
Yeah. But I did, there, like you said, there's a huge difference up there. But I will say this to the folks up north. Because we left here, it was starting to get warm up a little bit. But I got up there, it never got out of the teens, was the highest the whole time. And at night, it was 0 and below 0. Yeah. And so all that snow was there.
Well, we're not making light of it. I was just saying.
No, I'm saying that.
You have an ice storm.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere.
Yes,
there's no driving. And the power's going to go off.
I barely got out of here to get to the airport, and it just opened up the day we were flying out. So
the biggest phenomenon that I learned, and the only argument I had with my wife, because when she called me, she's like, "We have water coming in our house." I was like, "Well, I called my buddy, same guy lives up north. He's a plumber." And he's like, "We got a broken water line." And so I called her back. She's like, "It's not the water line.
Right.
It's coming through the ceiling and the floor." And we figured out that this ice somehow makes these dams on your roof.
But
in
also,
the valleys.
it freezes in the gutters. That's what happened to
And so then the water somehow leaks out and
backs up.
Yeah, and it happened to our entire neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's house got flooded to some capacity because of that, which was a strange. Even Duckman, where we're at right now, I saw them.
A lot of
they were out here doing the same thing.
Well, I didn't realize it, but we pulled a smart move. So we sent, like when it first started, I saw the water backing up underneath Anna's house, but the snow was blocking it, the ice was blocking it. So I got the kids out there, said, "Everybody grab a shovel," and we dug a trench in the initial ice when it was still fresh, so it was pretty easy. And it let that water out. So our house didn't flood, but we just kind of in the moment made a decision, but we'd have flooded too because it just backs in the door.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's why I came back here, because my wife, she was, it was just the stress of it all, the limbs crashing, sounding like it was 4th of July. And I was just like, well, I got to go be with my baby for a while. And
well, right past you, of course, Jep had his whole crew. Now he's got all of his kids are having babies, so he's got 3 babies there, and his son-in-laws, which I think were good help for him, and then his daughters. But the problem was, Jep wasn't prepared. He
wasn't prepared. Well, I guess we can throw him under the bus. The most funny thing that happened is when I cleared the driveways and y'all's driveway and our main road, and Jep, every time I looked up, he was pulling a little wagon. It was a little black wagon, and he had his son-in-laws, and I was like, What are you doing, Jep? Because I really wasn't sure what he was doing.
Yeah.
I thought, you need something way bigger than a wagon, Because I thought, is he helping me clear this? And then I realized Jeff's cold. He's just trying to get some firewood. So he was following me around.
Yeah. And at first he had to come to my house. He said, Al, do you have anything that would air up the tires in a wagon? I said, well, yeah, I got a thing that worked. He said, well, how am I going to use it? I said, well, it's got a battery pack on it. It'll air your tires up. So he had to air the tires up in the wagon first. And then he's having to get wood. And I said, well, what have you been burning? And he said, well, a tree fell on our outdoor furniture and broke it. And so we started there. So they're literally breaking things out in the yard and burning it. And then he walked in my house, and it was the look on his face, because it'd been a couple of days. And he walked in, he looks, of course, the lights are on, the TV's on, people are talking, they're drinking tea. And he looked at me and he said, y'all are living.
Yeah.
Living the good life.
Yeah, I said, Jeff, let me just tell you something. I'm just your older brother. I'm 14 years old, and you. This is what it looks like when you prepare. When you think ahead and you think. And it's funny because Willie and I had the conversation because he was out on his skid deal doing a bunch of work. And I said, Willie, I'm really surprised you never got a generator. He said, well, they had buried their lines a few years ago, and the substation's right next to his house. Of course, he's made it through 2 hurricanes. His power never went out. So I think he thought he was golden, but he wasn't prepared for this.
No,
and so he kept thinking, he said,
well, the actual power station went out.
I know. So. And then he gave his generator to his in-laws, which was very nice of him. The problem was he's got that big, huge house. But he said, I'm freezing to death because you can't heat it. It's too big. Yeah. I said, well, you can come on over in my little double wide if you just want to get warm, little brother.
Yeah.
I was like Stark Vegas over there. I was lit up. Sadie and Christian, they had a Generac on their house as well. And so they were housing all of their wing there. Yeah. So everybody's, it is interesting, Jason. We talk about compound living because you were out helping clear because you had a chainsaw, and then Jep's kids came up and were taking showers and washing clothes at our house. But it is to be together and have family close by. And then Mom, I was able to check on her every day, and other people did as well. Willie kept going over. It is the way that people used to live. And we just kind of reverted back, like you said.
No, that's the way I felt, just with the candles and having conversations and reading stories and building fires. I spent a couple of days just making it through the day as far as cutting firewood and helping people out. And I think that's the way people did before electricity, and it just becomes the new normal.
Oh, yeah.
And we did it. I mean, I had an interesting conversation last night with my wife because she saw my leg, and she was like, well, how'd you do that? Because I'm not, in all seriousness, after that day of chainsawing on that road, when, you get so hot, you're so cold, but then you don't realize you got too many clothes on, then you're sweating, and I'm like, tell your parents not to come in here because I'm fixing to take a sink shower, and which I did in cold water. It was rough, but I looked down, I was like, it looks like I've been in a bar fight. I mean, I had bruises and cuts, and I got to look at it.
Because you couldn't even know it was happening.
I didn't even know it was happening. I looked at my leg, and I realized that at some point, because when you're cutting and your feet are on ice, and, cutting limbs is unpredictable, especially the size of some of them I was cutting. I realized that chainsaw, because then I looked at my pants, that chainsaw nicked my leg, and I have where there's a chain link, I had an open wound. Wow. And I didn't even know I did it.
Wow.
I never even remember.
That's dangerous.
When it happened. And of course, I wasn't going to tell her that because I continued to do the chainsaw. But she asked me point blank, how'd you get that interesting wound on your leg? I was like, well, I wasn't going to tell you, but I got a little too close to that chainsaw. But it kind of made me realize, well, that could have been a lot worse. Yeah. Because I was right at the brink of that and didn't even realize it,
Well, that's the other thing about it. You take for granted because, like, nobody could get out. And so I'm, like, watching the kids and stuff. And, of course, stuff's falling outside. Well, they want to go play in the snow. They're like, no, we can't go play. It's dangerous.
Because the limbs are falling.
And so then we finally found some clear areas they could go outside. But like I was watching this little toddler, and he a couple of times fell and hit his head, and I just thought, all it takes is one thing here, and we got a bad situation because you just can't run down to the clinic like you normally could. You had to deal with even stuff like that.
I kid you not, Missy said, because, the garbage has become a problem here, if you'll notice, on the sides of the roads and on people's hoods, and because they're not running.
I already had 2 full cans. My entire bed of my truck was solid garbage because, we were doing 4 bags of trash a day.
So Missy said, well, they're not going to be able to pick that garbage up because I looked out there. I mean, there's a limb as big around as me on the. I was like, well, one of those garbage cans is not gonna make it. But so I said, well, I'll go cut it up. So I cut the tree off of it and all that, got it all straight. Go back to the house, and we're sitting there talking. Kaboom! I look, one twice as big hit right where I just was, and just decimated the garbage cans.
Just flattened it.
And she said, well, I guess it'd have been better if you'd have waited, and that you could get both of them. I was like, baby, realize I could have died if I would have done this about 30 seconds later. I wouldn't be here. And she's like, yeah, you're right.
Well, it's been cold. We're certainly in the wintertime, and one of the favorite gifts at my house was anything from Cozy Earth, but especially the bubble cuddle blanket, right, Jase?
I got one for my wife, and she has been under it the entire winter.
I slept with mine last night at your house, Al, when I was there. Your granddaughter had snagged it, but we wanted to get a picture of me under it. I think we may have that picture, but I took it from her, and it did not go well. She was not happy.
Well, it's a big fight at my place as to who gets it first, and I guess I'm gonna have to buy a couple of more. Zach, we also had the pajama zone as well. I think we took a picture of that. So we definitely love our Cozy Earth. Their sheets, their pajamas, their blankets are incredibly soft. Cozy Earth makes every day feel like a special occasion. And whether you're shopping for yourself or someone special, you got a 10-year warranty, a 100-night trial. You can't go wrong. There's no way you'll return anything from Cozy Earth, trust me. These viral PJs are so good, they sold out during the holidays, and now they're back with an exclusive deal only available January 25th through February the 8th. Head to CozyEarth.com, use our code UNASHAMEDBOGO to get these PJs for you and someone you love. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here. That's CozyEarth.com. Code UNASHAMEDBOGO. Celebrate everyday love with comfort that makes the little moments count.
She's absorbed the Robertson mentality there, obviously. But when I went out to Phil's house, I saw them trees all snapping coming down, and I was underneath a bunch of them, and I was like, and this phrase came to mind: widow makers. These are widow makers. And I immediately got up into the road because I was like, I'm going to get hit by one of these things. Mm-hmm. And we know a couple people that got really injured. There was Al, you mentioned the young boy. You mentioned him already in the podcast. And then I don't know what's going on with him. We should pray for him. And then also somebody else I read on Facebook that one of the canopies at the gas station collapsed on top of him. So there was something.
That was our old friend, Steve. He was, it fell on him and broke his back, and he was in intensive care. He's doing better, but it's very dangerous. Some 3 boys drowned over in Texas, got out on frozen water and got underneath it. So and I know some folks have lost life in Tennessee as well. So it was, once you kind of get through something, you look kind of back and you see that it's, those families' lives will never be the same.
Oh man,
for sure.
Well, it reminds you that you're imperishable,
and how quickly things change, right? I mean, exactly. You can be like. In fact, Maddie's, she's like sending a text out. So we recording tomorrow? We're like, Maddie, we're in no condition.
I was like, I can't get out of my driveway.
I can't get out of my driveway. Jase is trying to cut his way out. It was like, it was bad.
It is, but it does, it reminds us that we're perishable, but we're in Jesus. We're in this life and fellowship, and this is just part of it.
Yeah.
And, you have no control ultimately. And you kind of see those meltdowns in people who are kind of control freaks and think they can control the narrative. When things like this happen, it just tends to escalate, and you feel really small.
Yeah.
And your world gets small.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no internet, there's no TV. You're just with who you're with,
Yeah.
and you have a decision whether you can gripe, complain, or be scared, or stressed out, or be confident that your hope is in a greater power, and you just try to do what He would do. And I think my family did a lot of good things for a lot of good people, and I feel pretty good about it. I mean, because like I say, it always can be worse.
Yeah.
But it's a good reminder. It's a reset.
Well, and I like what you were saying with the Cade thing, kind of in a humorous way, but about being prepared spiritually, eternally, and even in moments like these, because you never know. I mean, look, we've always said that apocalyptic moments are going to happen. I mean, we just kind of experienced it for a week. But, I mean, if something happens to the whole setup, you got to be, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So not only just on the physical side, but spiritually, I mean, are you prepared? And that's a big part of it. We had planned this week 5.5 years ago. Because we live in our little mini compound within the bigger compound, and we thought, okay, we got this house has, gas, so you can, do this. My house had the Generac. This house has this, and we thought if something happens, we can survive. We can do this together, and then it came to fruition, and our lives were hampered, but not near as bad as other people, or even in the neighborhood. So, thinking ahead makes a huge difference, and it starts with thinking ahead to your eternal life. And Zach, you brought up the Jelly Roll thing. I think that's moments like that where you can remind people that Jesus is real. And all this stuff we talk about on this podcast is real. I mean, that's where you have to start. And then whether you survive something or not, you of course you win because, the resurrection, it's always there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's in a room speaking to people who have achieved a great deal of success in life, and they've accomplished, kind of ascended to the top of the mountain. And you think you can build that, right? And you look at what you've built, and sometimes I look at the things I've built, and I'm like, I did pretty well. I've done a great job here. And then a storm comes, and you look at your entire neighborhood, and it's like decimated, and it's like all those trees are down, like trees that have been there for 200 years are like snapped in two, and you're like, wait. Like, it took so long to cultivate, to build this thing, and we had it all set. It was all right. We had all the things. And then in our best efforts, it's just like it just wasn't enough. And I think that's the light that kind of shines through. A lot of this is that realization that even in your best efforts, in your best preparation, literally one storm can come in and hold more power that you can't do anything about, and you can be completely at the mercy of Mother Nature. And I think that God gave us that general revelation as a way of drawing us back into submission with Him. So that's the irony of Jelly Roll. Jesus is the answer. He's got to be the answer. Because if the answer is our own accomplishment and our own abilities, then the problem is nobody in that room or any room for that matter can stop a storm. Nobody can stand against that power. And so I hope that, I say nobody, except for the one who calmed the storm, the one that said, peace, be still. His name was Jesus, and that's why Jesus is the ultimate answer.
Well, when I was in Olney, Illinois, and I met a lot of podcast listeners were there, and one man named Jeremy, I would look back to find his email. He sent me an email, and he was just in tears. We talked a couple of times. He came in with his family, and I met him first, and then we talked a little bit after the event, and just about the podcast and our family, and had really helped him through some difficult moments and led him to Christ. He talked about it. He said, I never would have found Christ without y'all. And he was just so appreciative, and it was kind of like what we were just describing, Zach. And it's humbling. I told him, the last thing I told him, we had prayer. His wife has cancer, and she's battling that. But we had prayer. But I told him, I said, look, we're very humbled and honored that we get to do this and we get to guide you through the Bible, because he was just talking about how much it had meant to him just studying John last year, and it just had led him to that place. So we realize that, and that's part of what this is. This is spiritual preparedness. This is rushing in after storms and during storms in people's lives every single day.
Well, our position in Christ has this heaven and earth concept overlapping in Jesus. But you see, the physical earth, and it's wasting away as far as our involvement in it, and things happen and reminds us that we're perishable. It made me think of Romans 1, where it says, the people who didn't thank God, but they worshiped and served created things rather than the Creator. I mean, if you put all your hope in created things on the earth, you're going to be disappointed at some point. And you combine that with 2 Corinthians 4 when he was saying, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day, for our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And I think it's a really good balance to put this stuff in perspective, because it makes you appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
And there's a God, and you're not him.
I like it. I'm gonna close in a prayer. Maddie sent me a text. Said today's Groundhog Day. Then the groundhog saw his shadow, predicting 6 more weeks of winter. Yeah. So there we go.
Didn't it feel like Groundhog Day? The movie.
Yeah.
What was the name of that movie? Was it Groundhog
Day?
Day?
It's called Groundhog Day.
Because Missy actually said that.
Bill Murray.
At day 8, we shot our living early, and I was there, and she's like, well, I think I'm going to take a mental health day, because this Groundhog Day has provided some stress. And she went and got her a shower and to one of her friends' house. I was like, babe, you earned it.
All right, let me offer up a prayer. Father, we just want to come to you and thank you for getting us through the storm unscathed, and just some damaged stuff, but nothing that we can do without. Some have had much more trouble than that. I know some people have been injured. Some people have lost their lives. And so I pray a blessing on all those families, those that are struggling to regain health. I pray a blessing on them. Just be with everyone that was in the storm's path and bless their families. And Father, we are grateful that we have your Son, Jesus, to prepare us for eternity. Thank you in his name. Amen.
Amen.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Unashamed Podcast. Help us out by leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And don't miss an episode by subscribing on YouTube. And be sure to click the little bell and choose all notifications to watch every episode.